This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Underwear drawers are like the Wild West. You never know what you're going to pull out or what shape it's in. So upgrade your collection with the buttery soft comfort of MeUndies. MeUndies' signature fabric is as soft as a warm hug from your favorite sweater. Plus, it's breathable and oh so comfy, making it ideal for all-day wear. Get 20% off your first order, plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Spotify with code SPOTIFY. That's MeUndies.com/Spotify, code SPOTIFY.
Are negative Google reviews hurting your business? Don't let unfair feedback cost you customers. At Webamax, we specialize in removing false, misleading, and damaging reviews so your online reputation stays strong. Our expert team works quickly and legally to clean up your digital presence, helping you rebuild trust. Visit us on the web at www.gowebamax.com. That's GOWEBIMAX.com, or text us for a free quote at 856-840-8343. Don't let bad reviews define you. Get immediate help from Webamax.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Komm du noch?
If you've heard that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places. Between payroll, your tax consultant, and the IRS. If your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. Hey, what's going on, Ram fans? Another edition of my Rams Up update, news and notes. We'll be covering a lot of things, touch on a lot of different things here this episode. And I wanted to remind everybody, February 12th, live stream here from the Rams Up studios. Ian and I will be going at it, talking about this past season and the upcoming season. And we invite all of you to join us. Chat away, ask questions. It should be a lot of fun. Need a lot of participation, though. Hopefully you guys will step up and join us. Want to get a big crowd for that live stream. We don't do that very often. Want to start doing that more. So hopefully this first one we've done in a long time, will be a success. So keep an eye out for that. Again, February 12th. Now, this is episode 655 on the podcast. And as we like to do, I want to talk about a player who wore number 55 for the Rams. And, you know, the Rams haven't had a lot of great linebackers. They really haven't. You know, London Fletcher, Isaiah Robertson, Jack Reynolds, right? What about James Laurinaitis? A steady rock in the middle of the Rams defense in the late, well, it was like 2009 to 2015, he played for the Rams. A 2009 second-round pick out of Ohio State. He is 78th all-time on the NFL tackle list, 655 with the Rams, and he is the Rams' all-time leading tackler. And, you know, he was one of those guys that you don't really notice him. You don't really necessarily notice his contributions, but then you look at the stat sheet, 11, 12, 13, 14 tackles. He was a very good linebacker, just not flashy enough to, you know, get national attention. And of course, those Rams teams in that in those years was nothing special. Those were some of the dark days there. But he was a very good player, and I did see the Rams in St. Louis once against the Carolina Panthers. That was the Isaac Bruce jersey retirement game, and Laurinaitis had a big interception in that game. And, what we like to remember about James Laurinaitis is his father, Joe, famous WWE wrestler, road warrior animal. And if you're viewing on the YouTube channel, you can kind of see the similarities there, right? A little bit. So James Laurinaitis, our number 55 for the Los Angeles Rams, and the all-time leader for the Rams in tackles. Now, I'd like to go through some quotes across the web regarding the Rams and Andrew Hawkins, a retired NFL wide receiver. He's chiming in on the Rams' decision to put Cooper Kupp on the trading block. And what Hawkins said, I think the Rams should explore trading Matthew Stafford with Cooper Kupp gone. For me, this puts the Rams further away from a Super Bowl appearance. And I'm going to have to tell you, Andrew, you are 100% wrong. Cooper Kupp did not really contribute that much this past season. Had a couple of big catches here and there. And I would even argue, as much as I love Cooper Kupp, please don't take this wrong. I don't want to do anything to taint his legacy or our memory of his contributions here. But you could even say that maybe he held this offense back a little bit at the end of the year. I don't think Sean McVay was willing to pull the trigger as far as sitting Cooper Kupp down in favor of someone like Jordan Whittington. And I think this is just going to open a pathway for Whittington and probably a draft pick or two in the 2025 draft, or maybe a free agent signing, DeMarcus Robinson. Hopefully he'll come back. It's going to open up the door for some younger guys in this offense. I don't think I'm not going to say it's not going to miss a beat. It may, especially in the early going, but I think Andrew Hawkins is dead wrong here. And I will segue into a kinder comment about Cooper Kupp coming from Quentin Lake. And Quentin, I would think let's just say he's the leader of this defense at this point. Lake said, "My heart can't take this. One of the most amazing teammates I have ever been around." And I think we've all seen that. And I talked about that a little bit, as I said the other day in my last drop. Cooper Kupp is one of the few athletes that you can point to and tell your child, hey, be more like him. If you can be more like Cooper Kupp as a person and as a teammate, you're pointed in the right direction. So Quentin Lake nailed it. Andrew Hawkins did not. Hey, coming up, I guess it's Saturday night, right? They're going to announce the Hall of Fame selections. I have the 15 finalists up here on the screen. I'll read them out to you real quickly here in alphabetical order. Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Jari Evans, Antonio Gates, Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly. Oh, I probably messed up that name. It's been a while since I've said that. Quarterback Eli Manning, Steve Smith, Terrell Suggs, Fred Taylor, Adam Vinatieri, bad memories there, Reggie Wayne, Darren Woodson, and Marshall Yanda. Now, how do I think this is going to break down? It's easy for Rams fans to say Torrey Holt belongs in the Hall of Fame, and I think he does. One of the arguments that they make on his behalf, and I think it's actually a weak argument, but if it gets him into the Hall of Fame, I'm fully supportive of it. And they talk about that decade, that all-decade team he was a member of, and how he was basically the leading receiver of that decade. But you know what? That's not really a fair way of assessing players, wide receiver stats-wise, because he came into the league in 1999. So, if a player comes in the league in 1995, it's going to be, the odds against them making an all-decade team take a hit, right? So I don't think that's the best way of evaluating players stats-wise. But Cooper Kupp, Torrey Holt was the best receiver of that decade. Now, how do I think this is going to go down? Now, the problem is you got three wide receivers here, and on the screen here, if you're following on the pod, I'll lay it out here for you. I am dismissing Eric Allen and Jared Allen. I'm not going to get into the details here of each of these. I'm discounting Willie Anderson. He was a really good offensive lineman. And Jari Evans, one of the best guards of his era. Man, this is a really good class. I'm also dismissing Fred Taylor, who has a few more yards than SJ39, the great Rams running back Steven Jackson. And I'm also dismissing Darren Woodson. He's there because of the teams he played for, and Marshall Yanda, also dismissing him. So what does that leave? Well, Antonio Gates, I can't believe he's not in already. He was just one of the greatest tight ends ever, and I don't know why he's not in already, and I think he'll get in this year. The linebacker Luke, I think he will get in, recognized as one of the best linebackers of his era, and really admired for the way he approached the game. His career was cut short a little bit, but I still think he did enough. Eli Manning's an interesting one. I think he gets in. I'm not sure he deserves it. He does have the 2 Super Bowl wins, but was he really one of the premier quarterbacks of his era? I don't know if he was. I don't think he was, but he's got the last name and the 2 Super Bowls that are going to get him in, I think. Terrell Suggs, I think, deserves to get in. And Adam Vinatieri. If there's a kicker that belongs in the Hall of Fame, it would be Vinatieri. And that leaves us the 3 wide receivers. And let's look at this. Steve Smith, Reggie Wayne, and Torrey Holt. Now, unfortunately, Holt is third among these 3 as far as yards and TDs, but it's so close, especially in yardage. They're all within about 1,400 yards of each other. Smith at the top, followed by Wayne and then Holt. TDs, Wayne had 82, Smith 81, Holt 74. But you got to remember, for many of those years, Holt was giving up a lot of TDs to Isaac Bruce and Marshall Faulk. So it's that dilemma, that question, was Holt the beneficiary of playing with guys like that? Or if he had been the guy, and he very rarely was, would his numbers have been even greater than this? And then you get to the Super Bowls, and a lot of people say, like, hey, people that are support all these Steelers and Cowboys and 49ers that are in the Hall of Fame, it's because of their Super Bowls. Well, Torrey Holt was in 2, won 1, lost 1. Same with Reggie Wayne. Steve Smith in 1 Super Bowl and lost it. And the one thing that might hurt Smith unfairly, I think I actually like him. He was one of the big boosters of Cooper Kupp going into that draft when he was selected. He came out and said it. He's the best wide receiver in the draft. So he knows something about the craft, doesn't he? But I think he's, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way over the years. So that could hurt his cause. And it shouldn't, but it might. So who gets in? I'm hoping all 3 wide receivers get in, because if they don't, there are some really good wide receivers coming down the pipe, especially Larry Fitzgerald, who's going to be a first ballot guy, right? So if these wide receivers don't get in this year, and they may never get in, to be honest with you. So I'm kind of hoping Wayne, Smith, and Holt all get in, along with Gates. But those would be my top guys. If I had to list them in order, I would probably go Antonio Gates, the 3 wide receivers, Terrell Suggs, Adam Vinatieri, and you know what? I don't really think Eli Manning belongs in, but come on, he'll be selected into the Hall of Fame, I think, this year, and I'd be surprised if he didn't, and I'd be okay if he wasn't. So next up, let's talk about the left tackle dilemma with the Rams. Alaric Jackson, undrafted, now a top tackle in the league, Pro Football Focus grade in the top 20 among all tackles, left and right tackles, allowed just 3 sacks and 26 years old, and he's on the open market, and that's creating a significant potential problem for the Rams, because if you look at their draft needs, with Cooper Kupp out the door, and at least it looks that way, right? Alaric Jackson, a free agent, Ahkello Witherspoon also, Bobby Brown, Neville Gallimore, the 2 nose tackles, We have 3 wide receivers under contract if Kupp is traded. And then we basically don't have any linebackers, really. We have Omar Speights and Hummel. I shouldn't say that. Speights and Hummel are decent players, but we definitely need a boost there. So on the screen here, if you're listening on the pod, I'm listing my draft needs at this point. Hey, free agents, unrestricted free agents, we have to consider those to be needs. If Alaric Jackson is on the open market, maybe it's not a draft need. Maybe we'll address that in free agency. Maybe we'll bring Jackson back. But right now, our draft needs would be number 1, wide receiver, number 2, left tackle, 3, cornerback. I think we need a boost there as well. Nose tackle, we're really thin there. Wide receiver, yeah, I have wide receiver listed twice because, like I said, man, we got 3 under contract and then linebacker. And, you can make an argument for tight end, running back, a developmental quarterback, the next great quarterback. I don't think we're okay at safety and edge rusher. But those would be my 6 needs there. And yes, wide receiver listed twice. And then you get into the draft and you have that 26th pick. And let's say we're looking at wide receiver, defensive line, a big defensive lineman, a cornerback, and an offensive tackle. And this is the dilemma you get into with Cooper Kupp and Alaric Jackson, both potentially no longer Rams. Worst case scenario. That's what we're dealing with here. So what I looked at, I did a quick mock draft, and I'm going to be doing a mock draft here at the end here to wrap things up. Who would be there at 26 for each of these positions? And just to give you an idea of the way this draft could go, you got wide receiver Luther Burden out of Missouri. You got Kenneth Grant, the defensive lineman out of Michigan. He's a beast, 330 pounds in that neighborhood. Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback out of Notre Dame. And Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. So that's one way you could go. And if you did that, what's going to be there at 90, barring any trades? You're going to have the same positions. How would you pair these guys up? You got Jalen Royals, a wide receiver out of Utah State. I've mocked him to the Rams at least twice. He'd be great for this offense. Ty Hamilton, he's in that Kobe Turner size range. I don't know if he'd be a true nose tackle, but he would help this unit. He's out of Ohio State. Dorian Strong, the cornerback out of Virginia Tech, and Emory Jones would be the offensive tackle at number 90. He's out of LSU. So with that in mind, let's go back and look at this one more time. I'm talking about a Burden at wide receiver, Grant at defensive line, Morrison at cornerback, and Connerly at offensive tackle. And I'm going to select one of these guys when we do this mock draft. We'll see how it unfolds. And then at number 90, no trades, I'm going to come back and see which one of these guys is available. That's kind of my approach here. That's what we're going to do. And we'll see how it goes. That's coming up here in a second. Okay, let's get into this mock draft. And to rehash real quickly, I identified 4 positions that I think are the biggest need for the Rams at this point on this day. And that's wide receiver, defensive line, cornerback, and offensive tackle. And that's given the premise that Alaric Jackson, free agent, possibly gone. Cooper Kupp on the trading block. Neville Gallimore, Bobby Brown, free agents. And with or without Ahkello Witherspoon, I think I've always wanted them to add an elite cornerback. And we have a good group there, just not great. Maybe I'm being greedy here. Maybe we don't need an elite cornerback, a first-round cornerback, but let's just roll with this and see how it goes. And then when we get to the third round, number 90 overall, we'll look at the next group. Of course, we're not going to draft 2 of the same position. You know where I'm going with this. So let's look at this mock draft, and I'm going to try to avoid researching players as we go, but I do have some pages ready to look at to help us make decisions. But after we get past the first 2 or 3 picks. Going to be winging it a little bit. Starting to learn about these players, but I'm not quite there yet. And I don't have Scott or Paul sitting as my wingman to help me make some of these later picks. Let's get this started. And got to sit on fast speed. Rams, a 26th overall pick. And we'll see what we got. Luther Burden. Luther Burden is still there in this rendition of this draft. And I've ran this a few times practicing for this presentation. And in every case, Luther Burden was gone. And if you don't know much about him, he fits the profile of Rams wide receivers. He really does, measurables wise, 5'11", 205, a playmaker, excels with the football in space. We're talking yak, right? Yards after catch, special teams value as well. And apparently he loves playing in the slot with Cooper Kupp on the way out. Would be a good fit. Now, I don't know how realistic it is for Luther Burden to be here, but he is here. He is available. And Kenneth Grant, one of the other guys we had talked about, we got Burden and Grant both available. I suspect Morris and Connerly are still available as well. Let's take a quick look just out of curiosity. Grant is there. Burden is there. Morrison is there. And who is the other one? The offensive tackle. Connerly's there. They're all 4 there. And you know what? I'm going to roll with Burden. The Rams wide receiver group needs help. There's a couple other units that need help as well, but Luther Burden, a really exciting guy to add to this roster. And 16th overall, I've seen him ranked as high as top 10. Is it realistic? He could slip. He could slip a little bit. Tight ends go a little bit earlier. There's some really good edge rushers, quarterbacks. There's always going to be a run at quarterbacks, even though it might not make sense this year. But we're going to go ahead and add Luther Burden. It's pretty exciting now. 2 weeks ago, I probably would not have taken a wide receiver in that spot because, let's be honest, the Rams have found some really good players later in the draft. Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end, just went. He's a guy. I didn't put tight end on this list, but that's not to dismiss the possibility that McVay won't be able to help himself. As I mentioned in the pod the other day, I took Colston Loveland in the first round, and the Rams have tried to trade up for tight ends too out of with the last 3 or 4 years. And someone banged on me real bad for taking a tight end in the first round. And I was like, look at the Rams history here. Okay, so we're on the 3rd round pick, number 90 overall. Let's go back and look at that list I had for the 90th pick. Now, I would have been thrilled with Jalen Royals, but we have our wide receiver. Are we going to draft 2 wide receivers at the top of this draft? No. And Royals is gone anyways. Let's just check to be sure here. Royals is gone. Oh, no, Royals is there. Royals is still there. So if we had waited for the wide receiver at number 90 overall, we could have gotten Royals. Now, who else did we have on this list? Ty Hamilton, the defensive lineman, and he is the top-rated defensive lineman. Cornerbacks, I think guys rated higher than Dorian. Let's see, where is Dorian Strong on this draft board? I keep on forgetting to go back to the draft board for you. Sorry about that. So what I was looking at is where the offensive tackles available. Was Emory Jones available? And he is. I'm going to go with Emory Jones with this pick. And he's a guy out of LSU. He is, I got a draft profile right here, actually. 6'5", 312 pounds. Bleacher Report's ahead of the curve here, putting together draft profiles. And I'll let you read along there. For those on the pod, good play strength, length, and ability. Uses his hands well. Aggressive demeanor. You like to see that. negatives. They say he has an upright play style. But that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go with Emory Jones. And now after this, so we've got an offense, both picks, and our next pick is the comp pick that we got for the signing of Raheem Morris as the Falcons coach. Ernest Green is there 10 picks later. We could have taken Ernest Green. Let's go back to the cornerback group, and Darian Porter is still there. And go back one more time. I forget to turn the screen off, so I am hesitant to go there. Defensive line and cornerback. We got to go defense here. Have to go defense. Which defender are we going to go with? A cornerback like Darian Porter or a defensive lineman like Ty Hamilton? Darian Porter, or, I think the Rams have done pretty well finding defensive linemen later in the draft. Sebastian Joseph Day. What we need is, we need a bigger defensive lineman, though, right? We need a big body there, and there's some to be had later. So let's go ahead and take the cornerback, Darian Porter out of Iowa State, and that'll be our selection, and we'll dive into him a little bit deeper another day. 126 overall is our next pick. That's a 4th round pick. And if we stick to our plan here, now these guys are probably all going to be gone, but should we go defensive lineman at this point? I'm not necessarily going to do that. Let's see. I really feel strongly the Rams are going to draft 2 wide receivers in this draft. Ty Felton is still there. Now that is, there's 3 guys on the screen right now that Paul Wally had talked about: Ty Felton, Pat Bryant, and Caden Prather, 2 Maryland wide receivers. Would they get this rich on wide receivers? 4 rounds, 2 wide receivers. I'm not convinced they'll do that. The defensive lineman, Ty Hamilton, is still there. I'm going to go ahead and select Ty Hamilton. And we've hit all 4 positions and 3 of the 4 players that actually fell to us. And so I'm pretty happy about that. And I'm not going to get too excited about my grades, but I'd give myself an A+ here. Cornerback, defensive line, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. Now, as we get later in this draft, we'll dismiss the previous chart I had. It's irrelevant at this point. We're looking to fill other positions, another wide receiver, a linebacker. I've always questioned, how early would the Rams draft a linebacker, and I just don't think they're going to do that. Even in the where are we at here? We're in the 6th round. Yeah, I guess it's not early anymore, is it? They have 3 6th-round picks. And let's just go down the list here of the highest rated players. They are not going to draft a safety. Jeffrey Bassa, a linebacker out of Oregon, and Jack Nelson, an offensive tackle, an interior offensive lineman. Trying to find a name here. Riley Leonard, out of the quarterback out of Notre Dame. Let's go back to the linebacker Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon. And the Rams right now have Omar Spates and Hummel as their potential starting linebackers. Rose Boom and Troy Reeder. I know Reeder's probably irrelevant at this point. I'd love to see Rose Boom come back. Let's add a linebacker to this group, though. And don't know a lot about Bassa, another player we'll have to check in on afterwards. The NFL mock draft database seems to think it's a good fit, another A+. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm going to go back to the wide receivers, and Ja'Cory Brooks is a guy that Paul Wally had talked a lot about. We went over him in the in our wide receiver video. We did it last week, and I'm going to make the selection here. We're going rich on tight on wide receivers, and we're going to go ahead and add him. And I got a B plus for that one. They probably recognize I already picked a wide receiver. What the heck are you doing? And we have one more pick, 204 overall. And where would we need to go here? We have 2 wide receivers, a tackle. And on the defensive side, we have a defensive lineman, cornerback, and linebacker. I would consider a interior offensive lineman or a running back. The Rams draft a running back every year, and they will again. Which one are they going to pick? Let's go with another player from Oregon, Jordan James. And I'll elaborate on him another day. It's our last pick in the draft. And like I said, the Rams draft a running back every year. Look it up. And we have another one with the last pick of our draft. And we have another one with the last pick of our draft. So we ended up with a little heavy on the offense, right? 4 players on offense, 3 on defense, kind of spread it around to all the different units, especially while we got 2 wide receivers, though. But happy with that. Let me know what you think. This is, let me go back to my picks here. I think it's a pretty solid draft. Rehashing here, the wide receiver Luther Burden out of Missouri, Emory Jones, offensive tackle out of LSU, the cornerback Darian Porter out of Iowa State, defensive lineman Ty Hamilton out of Ohio State. Not as a big a body as I would prefer at that position, but a rotational guy for sure that'll help. Jeffrey Bassa, the linebacker out of Oregon, Ja'Cory Brooks, the wide receiver out of Louisville. So we have replenished this wide receiver group really, really fast and adding players a little bit more dynamic than we've had in the past as well. Don't know what's going to happen with DeMarcus and Tutu, so I'm happy with those 2 picks. And then a second player from Oregon, Jordan James, the running back. And there you have it. I know they're going to extend supposedly Kyren Williams, which surprised me. I thought the drafting of Blake Corum was an indication they might not extend him, and maybe they won't. And if they don't, another reason to go running back once again in this draft. So there you have it. I think this is, let's call this mock draft number 4. I'm not even sure. Not keeping track anymore. I'll have to review and see where I'm at on these drafts. I know I did one by myself, one with Scott Richmond. I think I did one other, maybe not recorded, but I shared the results. So let's call this mock draft number 4. Mock draft number 4 from Rams Up. There you have it. Out here. Thanks a lot. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.